Your first thing today is a little bit about rock climbing, and the first thing I want to do is, first of all, how many of y'all been on climbing walls or been climbing on real rock? Real rock? Yeah, where'd y'all climb on real rock?
Oh, me? I don't remember, but my camp told me to do it.
Yeah. I would forget all that too. TwoFunCamps.com, Camp Kahdalea and Camp Chosatonga. Okay, well, I want to tell you a little bit first. I guess one of the first things good to know when you're rock climbing is a little bit about the equipment. This is a kern mantle rope. Kern mantle. Anybody know what that means? Yeah.
Really thick.
Say again?
Really thick.
No, but that's a good, it is fairly thick. They're getting thinner, the standards are getting thinner, yes?
Corn.
No, but a mantle, when you study biology, your nerves have a mantle or a sheath around them to protect them. And this is a kern mantle. I think kern is probably a German word that has to do with woven. It's got a woven mantle, a woven sheath on it. And this sheath is really there for no reason. It basically carries none of the load of the rope, none of the weight. It's only there to keep the sun off of the fibers and to protect it from maybe, abrasion. These ropes, if you have one, you see one, it's got some abrasion on it. That's not a big problem. And even, I would say, if the sheath may even have a little cut in it, that's something we really don't like. We normally replace those. But if it's just in the sheath, it's not going to be a safety problem. And so these things can get worn and used a lot, but it's those inner fibers that carry just about everything. How much do you think a rope like this holds before it breaks? You pass this around and feel it. What do you think?
10,000 pounds.
10,000? Okay, anything else?
Maybe 300.
300 pounds? Yeah?
300.
300? Yeah?
3,000.
Yeah. Well, they generally hold around 3,000 pounds. 300, if you're taking a fall and you're going any distance at all, you're going to, I would break the rope. So, even when I'm falling at a high rate of speed, I don't have 3,000 pounds, so don't come close to that. So these ropes are well overbuilt. This is also a dynamic rope. You know what dynamic means when you're talking about a rope? Dynamic means it moves. And in this case, if you take a fall on it, it will stretch a little bit. Make your fall a little more pleasant at the end. And here you go. You can throw this back out here. And so it stretches a little bit. The other ropes we use at times are static ropes. They don't stretch at all. They're really good for setting up anchors. They're commonly used for rappelling. So a little bit about the rope. Anybody here weigh close to 3,000? No? You can lose some weight. Okay. Another thing that we use, that a lot of people aren't familiar with, what's this thing called? No, what do you see?
Like a class?
No, that's good. Let me tell you, this is called a carabiner. And carabiners, this one happens to be shaped a bit like a pear. So this one's actually a parabiner because it's shaped like a pear. This is a locking parabiner. See, it's open, but I can screw this down and it keeps it from opening. Yes?
What was his first name again?
A carabiner. Yeah, and all of these, I'm going to show you a number of different carabiners. So this is a really big one. This is really good when you're clipping people in. It has a lot of room to fit around their harness. This is another parabiner, but it's a pretty big parabiner. And again, this is a locking carabiner. Let me show you one that's a non-locking beaner. Non-locking beaner, and frankly, I've kind of gotten to the point where I just may as well buy locking beaners all the time, but just about. Non-locking beaners, are good when you're setting up when you're doing a sport climbs. You clip in with these. They aren't your basic anchor. If you don't have a locking beaner, you can take two of these, and this is a locking one, but I'll show you the concept here. You take two of these and use opposite and opposing gates. You can see this crisscross on here. That's considered safe. However, this is a locking carabiner. The reason they made these is because they lock. When you lock them, they don't come open. You do not need two locking carabiners with opposing gates. A locking carabiner is all you need for important anchor points where you would clip in personally. That's what you'd like to have, a nice locking carabiner. So, if they lock and they're safe, why would you want to have two of them? That would be safe too. You could have 10 of them. That would be safe. But one of them and locking is safe. So it's good to close these things, squeeze test them, make sure that actually the lock is engaged. These things the ropes hold about, give or take, 3,000 pounds generally. Your basic locking carabiner is about 4,000 or 4,500 pound capacity before it tends to break. So these things are stronger than ropes. Again, these things are well overbuilt. Oh, I dropped one. Oh, another. Oh, look at this mess. I dropped them on purpose to dispel the myth. Some people think that if you drop a carabiner, that it gets micro fractures in it, and you have to retire it. That is not true. If you go to the websites for the engineering groups for climbing, you can actually have a pretty good gash in it, and it's still a very safe implement. If these things got microfractures from dropping them, they would all come to you already ruined because the UPS guy probably throws it in the back of the truck onto the shelf, and they would all break. So these things are so well built, they're solid, you don't need to worry about them. I'm going to pass a couple of these around. Yeah, so here's a non-locking one. Y'all can pass that around. And then you have other carabiners. You got some with wire gates. These are really good if you're sport climbing. They have clips in the rocks or in the climbing walls, and you can just clip them in there very easily. They're very handy. This item where you have two of them together is called a quick draw. It allows you to clip one in, and it allows the rope to pull the other one without loosening your anchor. And really, in sport climbing, I don't think that's a big deal. But if you're climbing using artificial protection, sometimes without this extra strip on here, this extra length on here, the rope and the drag on the rope may pull your protection that you place in a crack, may pull that out of the rock. So that's why you have these quick draws. Here, I'll pass a couple more of these around. And y'all play with them, look at them, and practice locking them. This is D-shaped, right? That's a D carabiner. One of the ones I passed around there is O-shaped. It's a O-shaped carabiner. The rope sits a little differently in these. Maybe a dash stronger, but when you're talking 4,000 and 4,212 pounds, it's not really significant. Okay, I think that's going to be it for the basic equipment. Any questions on any of this stuff? They're really well built. You need to know that. And I'm going to set up an anchor. I'm going to we're going to do a mock climb, and I'm going to use that as a tree. Now, a lot of people talk about redundancy when they're setting up anchors, and especially if you're doing artificial protection, redundancy is exceedingly important. But when you have, first of all, regarding these ropes have never failed on their own. That just, if you set them up wrong and maybe set them up over a very sharp rock edge, the ropes can fail. But basically, climbing rope, approved climbing ropes don't fail. They haven't failed. There's no history of that. They're really, really solid. And so with that in mind, we can use a single tree, a really good solid tree, put a really good knot on it, and use that for the anchor. We don't need to set up off a tree and then set off of 2 more trees or 3 more trees or 6 more trees. I had a counselor one time, when he used Artificial Pro, our policy is to use 3 really solid anchors. He would use 6. 3 is safe. 6 is also safe. I never was worried about his safety. But the problem is he'd often get back to camp and some of the kids wouldn't have an opportunity to climb because he spent so long setting it up. It's not very efficient to go to that degree. So keep that in mind. So I'm going to set one up, and I'm just going to use a single anchor off of a good solid tree or something like that. I'm going to use a bowline, and a bowline requires a backup knot. Some knots don't. A water knot with webbing does not. A figure 8 does not require a backup. A square knot does require backups, and a bowline, great knot. We're going to go over commands. It's very important that you have good equipment. The next most important thing, I think, is good communication. If you don't communicate well, you can have a mistake or 2, and that's not really good. This is my tree. Here's my bowl. And here's my backup knot. When you do these knots, it's good to have about a 3 or 4 inch tail. Just good practice. The next thing you do when you're at the top of the rock, generally, is you want to keep your ropes in order, and they usually are not when you take them apart the first time. And so you stack your rope. So I'll be stacking my rope. Now when you stack a rope, and you throw it down to whoever's below you, if you're doing a top rope, it will come off your stack nice and clean. And before I get into the action doing a mock climb, I'm going to get someone to demonstrate how to put on a harness. The harnesses we're going to be using here are called a fudge harness made by Misty Mountain. They don't make these anymore, which is unfortunate. One size fits all, and they're just really solid harnesses. This is Mary, everybody. Say hi to Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Our studio audience out there. Mary is wearing a fleece, and when I ask her to put this on, I'm going to ask her to take that off. The number one most important thing with safety in your climbing harness is the part that goes around your waist. And if there's a jacket or a fleece or a sweatshirt in the way, it makes it harder for that to tighten down properly and to be as safe as it can be. Sometimes you can't see it really well. So that part that tightens around your waist is the key. The leggings are there for comfort. They don't really carry a lot of the stress, but that part around your waist, you cannot be able to fall through it, be able to let it slip over your hips. You can't let that happen. It needs to be so tight that that cannot happen. Okay, now you put these on like a pair of pants. So go ahead and take that. And now these parts that go around your legs, they don't have to be really tight. You can tighten them up just by pushing them through the buckle a little bit and make them a little more comfortable. But they don't have to be really tight. They are there mostly just, it'll make it a little more comfortable if you take a fall. This part, pretty long. Like I said, one size fits all. So it fits me. This goes around your waist. Grab that piece if you don't mind. One thing, it does go through this loop. What we're going to be doing today, it won't be so important. This is your belay loop. Some people might call it your rappel loop. Goes through the loop. And then, let's look here.
Can we get the buckle over here? Yeah.
Looks awkward.
All right. What letter is that?
X and up.
A what?
Mid.
Oh.
Oh.
What are you looking at?
Where?
This letter. What letter is that?
Oh.
Letter
Oh. And what's it stand for?
Open. No, never mind.
Uh-oh. Yeah, it actually stands for open. And she is open to perhaps some injury if that were to come loose. And so I'm going to put this other piece back through again. And now what's a letter?
Close. C.
C.
C for closed. However, I want to test these things every time. And the way I test them is I grab the buckle and I pull on it. And it said, you know, it's a little looser than I think it ought to be. So when that happens, and so pull on the buckle, wiggle it, you'll find out, you know, if there's a lot of slack in there. She, again, cannot be in a position where she would fall through this. And this will not fall through at her hips. And I will put this back this way. And again, like with knots, it's important that you have a few inches here out of the way. So, there's one other item on here that I hadn't told you about yet. Please turn around. This is called your wedgie strap. And this wedgie strap, you just hook it through some or both of the webbing around her waist. And this is just to keep your, there you go, this is to keep your leggings from hanging down when you're trying to climb. And turn around. This will keep your leggings from hanging down when you're trying to climb and getting in your way. It pulls them up out of the way so that you can climb well. Any questions on that? All right, you all saw how that works because you're going to break up into teams in a little bit and put these things on, and I want to see it done really well. And then we'll check them anyway before you climb.
Taylor had.
By the way, we're going to be climbing off of a device called a ATC. Anybody know what that means? ATC is air traffic control. I'm going to put a butterfly knot in here. That's one of the neatest knots. Because I'm just going to clip into the rope with a butterfly. This is a very simple belay system here. And it works very effectively. Squeeze test, okay. So, I'll be able to belay pretty comfortably right here. I'm going to send Mary down to the other end of the rock, so if you don't mind, go stand over there in about the middle of the floor. And I love teaching climbing from the top of the rock. Keep going, Mary. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. That's good. Thanks. I love teaching from the top of the rock because it's so pretty up there, so much of the top. And it's just nice. So we're going to talk a little bit about commands. So we're going to start going over commands. The first command is a really simple command, and I want to hear you guys lot of times when you're at the top of the rock drops down in front of you. It may be a little windy. You won't be able to hear real well. So it's important when you do commands that you're loud and clear and emphatic. Okay? So the first command, and we've already checked your harness, because that's actually one of the very first things you do. But the first command I'm going to use is called rope. Let's hear it. Rope. Yeah, what's it mean? It means look out. A rope is coming your way, and if it hits you, it's going to knock the snot out of your face. So here goes rope. Rope. All right. There's another important command that's really, really important. And that command is if something falls. If you drop your water bottle, if you drop your camera, if you shake a rock loose and it goes over the edge, that command is something falling? No, that command is strong, simple, loud. It's simply rock! Yell rock. And if you're at the bottom of the rock, what do? No, you don't curl up in fetal position, because what if it's coming right at you? What you want to do is to, if you hear somebody yell rock, and if you're up there, you drop something or something's sliding loose, yell rock early, quickly. And that gives people at the bottom enough time to look up, and see if it's coming. And if it's coming right to them, they have time to move and get out of the way. If it's going somewhere else, they're safe. Maybe there's a big ledge. They could actually get beneath the ledge. But when somebody yells, rock, your job is to immediately look up and see if it's coming at you. If it's coming at you, get out of the way. Sometimes they say, just sit there and hold on to your helmet. Well, what if it's a great big rock and it hits you on the head? I mean, it's much smarter just to get out of the way. The helmet will probably give you just minimal protection against a big rock, which will probably break your neck. Any questions on that? Rock! And the person at the bottom of the rock will check the harness and check the belay in a teaching situation. Now, a lot of times when we teach, we'll teach the campers or the climbers to do a figure eight follow through. In this case, I'm going to do a figure eight on a bite. And neatness is very important when you do a figure eight, or when you do any of your knots, because you want to be able to glance at them and know that they're correct and solid. Figure eight does not require a backup knot, although sometimes people will do a backup knot just to get some of the extra slack out of the way. In this case, I'm going to use a parabiner because it's big, and I'm going to put it through all her layers here so that it's really comfortable and it's really solid. I could use it just around this belay loop. It's certified. It's solid. It's just I like this. It's really, really solid. So you can be safe, and you can be a little safer without it much effort. So locked it, squeeze test. She is locked in. This is safe. I'm at the top of the rock. I'm tied in. I look at my knots. I just double check things. This is your ATC. I like this going the other way. You put your rope into here, into this, and clip into the beaner. Now, I know in climbing, some people are going to say, well, I like it the other way, or I like it reversed, or whatever. Climbers tend to be notoriously picky about little details. That's pretty good. It comes with the territory, because little things can have a big repercussions. You can make a mistake. And the style of belaying I like to use, I know that some people like to have their hand this way, and they'll pull it out around, and then they'll grab it and set up again. I'm not really sure what that way is. It's safe, it's effective, it's a good way. I like to never let go with my brake hand, and that's important as a belayer. And I'm always ready to brake. And if I'm sitting here waiting, I'll be like that, okay? So communication, again, is really important. So the first thing that the climber will holler up to the belayer is that they are on belay. Who knows what belay means? Belay is a French word. It means to hold fast. And those French people, they, I guess they started a lot of the climbing with a guy named Chenard and up there in the Alps. And so it's really important. These ropes and your gear, respect your gear. If you step on a rope, it's not going to ruin it or break it. But you want to take good care of it. So try not to step on it. Some people think that if you step on a rope, the sand's going to get down in there, and it's going to go to work cutting those inside fibers. And I just think that's a little extreme. But don't step on the ropes. Be careful with the equipment. Okay, so her first command is going to be on belay. That tells me that she is set up on belay. So let's hear that. Did I hear something?
I don't know. It sounded like the wind.
On belay.
How loud can you yell, Mary?
I don't know.
Loud as you can. Let it rip.
On belay.
Oh, come on. You can yell louder than that.
On belay.
How about on belay? Can you do that?
On belay.
Oh, that's better. Yeah. Let's all do that command. 1, 2, 3.
On belay.
Okay, all that says is she's tied in. I will respond with, belay on! That means I'm tied in and ready. And then, that doesn't mean she can climb. The next command is a request for permission to climb. And that command would be climbing or, would be climbing. So let's hear that really loud. 1, 2. That was good. 1, 2, 3.
Climbing.
All right. Let's do that again really loud.
Climbing.
Climbing, she says, and I would answer back with either climb or climb on. So climb, and that means she can start climbing. Now take baby steps. You're on a rock. So let's take a break for a second. Everything's fine. She's climbing. But suppose she stops for a while. She hits a hard spot. And I like to as a belayer. And let me tell you, before I holler back, climb on. Don't climb yet. Thanks. Before I holler back, climb on. It's really important as a belayer that's when I look up and decide I'm not going to be paying attention to anything else. I'm going to give my full attention to the climber. I'm not going to be sitting there watching the eagles go in circles. I'm not going to be eating a sandwich. After I say climb, her life is in my hands. And so that's really important. I like to, if I can't see them, I like to be able to feel them. And so if they're stuck for a moment, I'll feel periodically. And if all of a sudden she starts climbing, if she paused for a long time, it's probably pretty good to let us know that she's climbing again. So she could yell, climbing.
Climbing.
And I'll do climb. Or climb on, either way. And, okay, so does that make sense to all of you? Does that make sense to all of you?
Yes.
I'm way up here on the rock. What? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Very good. Okay. Okay. Suppose she hits a really hard spot. Pay attention, guys. Pay attention. Suppose she hits a really hard spot. And one thing nice about climbing with ropes, you can work on something that's too hard for you, or you can give it a try and see if it is too hard for you. and you can fall, you can fail, you can maybe not do it, and you won't die because you're tied in. What's nice about it is I like to stay sort of tight on them, and so if she falls, there's another command that's really handy. You don't have to use it. Your belayer should always be ready to catch you. But it's always nice in case maybe they're scratching an itch or not paying as close attention as they could be. It's always nice to let them know. That command, anybody have a guess?
Catch.
Does anybody have a guess what that command is?
Falling.
Falling. So let's just say you're going to take a hard fall. And holler it out.
Falling.
Fall.
Fall.
Yeah, go ahead and fall. Fall hard. I can hold her very easily. If she puts all her weight and all her force in it, that's the way these things are set up. And then I can't see her, so I'll say, you doing all right?
Yep.
Doing fine. And then she'll say, as she begins to climb again, what will she say?
Climbing.
Let's hear it. What will she yell?
Climbing.
Climb on. So she continues to climb, and she hits another difficult spot. And she works at it for a while, and notice when I relax, I've always got my brake hand braking. She works at it for a while, she can't seem to do it, and she needs a little slack. You know what that command might be?
Slack.
Slack. Very good. So yell it. Let's hear it loud.
Slack.
All right. When they say slack, I'll give them a little bit of slack. Often they'll need to go down 4 feet maybe and around. So that command would be slack 4 feet. So let's hear that.
Slack. 4 feet.
Loud.
Slack. 4 feet.
So I'll let out about 4 feet, and she down climbs a little bit. Keep going, 4 feet. Go around that thing a little bit, and then she'll try again. But before she tries again, what should she say?
Climbing.
Let's hear it loud.
Climbing.
All right. By having y'all yelling a lot and stuff, you learn it pretty well. It's a teaching tool. So she's climbing. Climb on! And I take up the slack, and she carries on. Now she comes up to another difficult spot. This is a tough rock. And she's going to go for it again. But she would feel more comfortable if I was really tight on her. So just like you have slack, this one she wants it tight. What might that be called?
Tight.
Tension. So let's hear it really loud. 1, 2, 3.
Tension.
So I'm going to pull kind of tight on her. She feels more comfortable, and she tries the hard move. And she makes it. Hey, good job, Mary. Okay. And those are most of your commands until she gets to the top of the rock. When she gets to the top, God bless you. When she gets to the top of the rock, it's good for me to say, nice climb. Good job, Mary. And Mary goes, oh, thank you. And she's ready to get off. So what would that command be? Remember, it was on belay?
Off belay.
This is off belay. That is a request to disconnect. I look at Mary and say, Mary, I'm not going to let you off belay because you're going to fall over the cliff if anything bad happens. So I feel better if you were over there. Please go over there. Don't step on the road. Stand! So, and then she says her command nice and loud and clear.
Off belay.
Let's hear it.
Off belay.
Let's hear it loud.
Off belay.
Good. And I'll make sure she's in a safe place, and I'll say, belay off, and she can disconnect. When she disconnects, it's courteous to say, all clear and thank you. So go ahead and disconnect. First time with a parabiner, locking parabiner. You
This is hard.
pull it like that.
Oh, there we
There
go.
you go. And go ahead, yeah. All right. And so she says loudly,
All thanks, all clear.
all clear and thank you, or thanks all clear would work too. You're so welcome. You did a great job. Okay, questions? Y'all understand how that is a very safe system?
Yes. Yes.
And it's important that you know that. You do not want to get on a rock when you're not satisfied with the equipment and how solid it is, with the procedure and how careful and safe it is. And so it's important that you understand how good it is and how rock solid it is, pardon the pun, so that you'll feel more comfortable. You can scratch equipment and procedure off of your list of things to be worried about. You can get on a rock, have a lot of fun, and have a really good time climbing.
If we have to swing, is there a command for that?
If you have to do what?
Like swing to...
In other words, you want to pendulum over to another. There is not necessarily a command that I'm aware of for that, but it would be really good to tell your belayer that you're going to pendulum over to another location.
Okay.
Yeah. And you can talk in English with them, but those commands are simple and loud so that if it's windy and you've got really bad conditions, you can have effective communication. Thanks. Yes?
What about if you're at the top and you're ready to come down?
Oh, that's a good one. Yes. If you're at the top, like you're going to be on the climbing wall, there is a command called waiting the rope. And the command will be hollered, let's hear it, 1, 2, 3.
Waiting the rope.
And I would say, wait on. And if I'm going to lower you, you're going to come down like you're rappelling. And we're not getting into rappelling right here and right now, but you'll learn that on the climbing wall. Yes. The bottom line is safety. Is it safe? So just be aware that it's good to get other people to check your setups. It's very important, I think, to do that. And wish you well. Happy climbing.